Pierre Poilievre wants Canada's economy to boom. Mark Carney, he's happy to just keep it plodding along. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist with the Toronto Sun. One of the things that we've all been talking about since Donald Trump started his tariff threats is how do we adjust Canada's economy? How do we find new trading routes, new trading partners, new ways to get our products to markets? Most sensible people have been talking about the need to build new pipelines to Tidewater on the BC coast, or even people are now talking again about shipping oil via pipeline to the Arctic coast and exporting it that way. And of course, an east-west pipeline, or perhaps better said, a west to east pipeline to get Canadian oil to Canadian markets in Ontario and Quebec in the Maritimes, not only to service those markets, but also to export. Well, what's the answer to that? You've got to repeal Bill C-69. You've got to embrace the idea of pipelines. Now, Mark Carney's talked about trade diversification and making Canada an energy superpower, but he always says in conventional and in clean energy. We already are a superpower in conventional energy. He wants to improve what we're doing on clean energy, on windmills, on solar, on things that we can't really export. So what about pipelines? What about a national infrastructure corridor for energy? That's what Pierre Poilievre has been talking about. Now, Carney's talked about something similar, a national infrastructure corridor of sorts, but he never mentions pipelines. While speaking in St. John's, Newfoundland, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was blunt. If he's elected Prime Minister, Bill C-69, known as the No More Pipelines Bill, is going to be scrapped. It's going away. The Supreme Court has already said it's unconstitutional. The Liberals are just trying to hang on to it in defiance of the court. But Pierre Poilievre says it will be done under his watch.
1, repeal the No New Pipelines law and the tanker ban so that we can ship our resources to non-American markets. I voted against C-69. I have always been against C-69. I've said I will repeal C-69, the No New Pipelines liberal law, within 60 days of becoming Prime Minister. Mark Carney supported C-69, and he had a week after he became leader to recall Parliament to repeal it, as I demanded, but he did not. So their position is clear.
Well, a short time later, speaking in Winnipeg, talking about the need to diversify trade again, to build up our economy, to build up good jobs, Mark Carney was asked about Bill C-69, and he was clear. It's not going anywhere, despite the court saying it's unconstitutional.
How do you reconcile keeping Bill C-69 with your plans to build infrastructure in Canada? Do you plan to repeal Bill C-69?
We do not plan to repeal Bill C-69, to answer your question directly. What we have said and made very clear 10 days ago, formally with the First Minister's meeting, is that we will move for projects of national interest to remove duplication in terms of environmental assessments and other approvals, and we will follow, as the federal government, the principle of one project, one approval to move forward from that.
If this law remains in place, building pipelines becomes incredibly difficult, and that was the entire point. The Trudeau Liberals, under the guidance of people like Jerry Butts, now an advisor to Mark Carney, or people like Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister, now a cabinet minister for Mark Carney, they did not want more energy production going on. They want to keep it in the ground. And in fact, Pierre Poilievre even quoted Mark Carney expressing his keep it in the ground mentality.
And by the way, on that, let me be clear. When I say he has a keep it in the ground policy, that is not my characterization of his position. I'm going to quote him verbatim. This is not Justin Trudeau or Stephen Guilbeault. This is Mark Carney. Maybe as much as half of oil reserves, proven oil reserves, need to stay in the ground. You hear that? He wants to keep it in the ground, and that includes under the ocean floor. That means that he will not allow any offshore development here in Newfoundland. To keep it in the ground, he would have to block any further projects from going ahead. That means that our single biggest and most valuable resource would not be available to us while the Americans unleash massive production increases, and while Mr. Carney's own company profits off petroleum investments outside of Canada. he will shut down competition to his company here in this country. We need to bring dollars and jobs home so that we can be strong enough to stand up to Donald Trump.
Oil and natural gas are Canada's biggest trump card when it comes to diversifying our economy, but we've got to do something more than sell it to the Americans at a discount. We've got to be using it ourselves to displace imports from the United States, imports from Russia, imports from Saudi Arabia. We should be using our own product here in this country, and we should also be exporting it around the world. That's what Poilievre is promising to do. In fact, while speaking to energy workers in St. John's, he said he would approve Newfoundland and Labrador's government's proposal to double capacity. Not what the Liberals are trying to do, which is reduce capacity. He wants to double their production capacity. And he said he would approve an export liquefaction platform that would ship natural gas to Europe to displace Russian natural gas that is helping fund the war against Ukraine. Isn't that what we should all be working towards? Well, one side is working towards that. The other side has a keep it in the ground mentality. That will only keep us poorer, and it will not help in fighting back against any of the economic impact of what Donald Trump is doing south of the border. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.